They called him a monster. They called him a menace. They called him a man without a soul. But what they feared wasn't his strength. It wasn't his speed. It wasn't even his brutality. What they feared was his freedom. A man unchained. A man who owed nothing to anyone. A man who didn't bend, didn't kneel, didn't care. That man was Toji. And that's why they called him a menace in human form. But here's the truth. Every single one of us has that menace inside. That part of you that doesn't care about limits. That voice that whispers, you are more than what they think. The question is, will you unleash it? Or will you bury it and live like the rest of the world? Weak, afraid, forgotten. Toji was not born chosen. He wasn't blessed with cursed energy. In fact, he was born with nothing. But in a world where everyone worshipped power, Toji carved out his own. He built strength with his hands. He sharpened instincts with pain. He turned his body into a weapon. And in the silence of his suffering, he became unstoppable. That is why his story is dangerous. Because it tells you something no one else dares to say. You don't need gifts. You don't need luck. You don't need the world to give you permission. All you need is the will to take what is yours, to rip power from the jaws of fate itself. That's what the Toji did. And that's what you must do. So how do you become like Toji? How do you become menace in human form? Step 1, detach from weakness. Cut the need for constant approval. Cut the addiction to comfort. Stop living for validation. A menace doesn't beg for applause. He creates silence. And in that silence, his presence speaks louder than words. Step 2, forge strength in solitude. Don't just train your body, train your mind. Toji's power wasn't just muscle. It was focus, precision, ruthlessness. When you're alone, push yourself past the breaking point, because men built in silence echo in eternity. Step 3, weaponize your pain. Every scar you carry, use it. Every betrayal, turn it into fire. Every failure, make it your teacher. Toji was broken by the world, but instead of bowing to it, he sharpened the broken pieces and turned them into blades. And step 4, move without fear. Fear makes men hesitate. Fear makes men obey. Fear makes men small. Toji, he had none, and that made him untouchable. When you kill fear, you kill limits. When you kill fear, you create chaos. And chaos is where legends are born. They call him dangerous. They call him insane. But the truth, he simply refused to be small. Every scar, every wound, every betrayal carved something deeper inside him. Not weakness, not fear, but something the world would never control again. He was once like everyone else, trying to fit in, trying to be accepted, trying to be loved. But the world spit on that kindness. They mocked his dreams. They dragged his name. They tried to bury him in silence. And that's when it happened. He stopped asking. He stopped waiting. He stopped caring. That's when a man became something else. Not a victim, not a fool, but a force, a menace in human form. Because what do you do with someone who has nothing to lose? What do you do with someone who doesn't fear death, who doesn't fear pain, who doesn't fear rejection? You can't break him. You can't shame him. He becomes untouchable. And the funny thing, the same people who laughed at him now whisper his name in fear. The same ones who mocked his silence now choke on it. Because silence became his loudest weapon. This is not about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving himself unstoppable. The menace is not cruelty. It's not madness. It's freedom. The freedom of a man who walks into fire and laughs, who bleeds but never bows, who loses but never kneels. That's why they fear him, because he is everything they cannot be. He is the nightmare they created, and now they can't wake up from it. So remember this, the world will always try to cage you, to control you, to tame you. But the day you stop begging, the day you stop bending, that is the day you rise. Not as their friend, not as their hope, but as their menace. And when you walk in, let them tremble. They laughed until he walked in. They mocked until he moved. They underestimated until his silence crushed their pride. Because this is not just a man anymore. This is the storm they never saw coming. A menace in human form, the one you can't cage, can't break, can't erase. And if you're listening, let this burn into your soul. Be the nightmare they regret creating. Be the shadow they can't escape. Not loved, not pitied, feared. The world doesn't remember the harmless. It only remembers the menace that stood unshaken.